Faith has always been questioned. For centuries, it has sparked debates, ignited movements, and shaped the course of nations. But what happens when it is openly mocked on live television? When conviction is laughed at rather than respected? Karoline Leavitt knows this moment all too well. The cameras are rolling, the lights glowing overhead, as she takes a seat on one of the most controversial talk shows of the decade. Across from her sits Daniel Pearce, a sharp-minded host with a reputation for turning conversations into battles. The crowd fills the studio, some eager to hear her defend herself, others waiting to see her fail. The atmosphere is thick with tension. A moment ago, a viral clip played on the giant screen behind them. Footage from a past debate where Leavitt's beliefs were dismissed with casual ridicule. Laughter had erupted, not in agreement, but in mockery. The comments beneath the video had been ruthless. Religion has no place in leadership. Faith belongs in churches, not government halls. A leader relying on belief is a leader unfit to serve. The murmurs ripple through the audience. Some people exchange glances, silently making up their minds about what will unfold next. Others brace themselves, sensing the storm that is about to arrive. But Leavitt, she remains still, composed. There is no trace of hesitation in her expression, no flicker of doubt in her eyes. Pearce leans forward, his voice calm yet pressing. Karoline, your faith has been mocked on national television. Many believe religion has no place in leadership. Some argue that belief is personal, not political. Today, you're here to respond. The weight of the question lingers in the air. Leavitt doesn't react immediately. She lets the silence stretch just enough to hold the audience on edge. Then she speaks. Faith isn't a weakness. It isn't ignorance, nor is it an obstacle to leadership. Faith is what gives people strength when logic alone cannot. And today I'm here to prove why. The crowd shifts, some leaning in, others folding their arms in skepticism. The divide is clear, the battlefield drawn. Pearce watches closely, sensing the shift, knowing that the conversation is only beginning and stay till the end because the truth about faith in leadership is about to be exposed. And the air inside the studio grows heavier with anticipation. The audience sits on the edge of their seats, knowing that what comes next will shape the entire discussion. Some have come in support of Karoline Leavitt, ready to defend the intersection of faith and leadership. Others sit with skeptical expressions, waiting for her arguments to falter. The battle isn't just about politics. It's about belief, reason, and the modern world's relationship with faith. At the center of it all is Daniel Pearce, the host renowned for pushing boundaries in debate. He has made a career out of challenging guests, drawing out their weaknesses and creating viral moments that leave the internet buzzing for weeks. Today is no different. He leans forward, sensing the tension, ready to dissect the core issue that has polarized opinions nationwide. A screen behind them lights up with the infamous viral clip. Footage of a past debate where Karoline's faith was laughed at, dismissed as an outdated notion that had no business in government. The words echo across the studio. Faith is personal, not political. Leaders need facts, not belief. Religion is no excuse for policy decisions. The reactions ripple through the audience. Some nod in agreement, murmuring their approval of the statement. Others shake their heads, visibly discontent. Faith, it seems, is not just a matter of belief. It has become a battleground for what leadership should represent. Pearce acknowledges the divide with a sharp glance at the crowd. He turns back to Karoline, his expression unreadable, and poses the ultimate question. Karoline, your faith has been openly mocked. Many claim it should have no influence in leadership. They say belief belongs in churches, not government halls. Should faith dictate decisions, or should reason prevail? It's a challenge designed to put her in a difficult position. If she argues that faith alone should guide leadership, she risks alienating skeptics who demand logical reasoning in governance. If she concedes that reason should come first, she weakens her stance, making her convictions appear secondary. The question is crafted to trap her in a no-win scenario. But Karoline isn't rattled. She remains firm, composed, her gaze steady. She doesn't rush to defend herself. She lets the silence linger, controlling the pacing of the conversation. When she finally speaks, her words carry conviction. Faith has never been the enemy of reason. It isn't an obstacle. It's a foundation. It doesn't dictate decisions, but it strengthens them. Some of the greatest leaders in history leaned on faith in moments of uncertainty. Not because they lacked intelligence, but because conviction matters when guiding a nation. The audience shifts. Some skeptics raise their eyebrows considering her argument. Others remain unconvinced. The tension only grows. Daniel Pierce, never one to back down from a debate, presses further. But isn't faith subjective? What happens when belief clashes with facts? What happens when what a leader feels is right isn't supported by logic? Asterisk. It's a new challenge. One meant to unravel her argument. The skeptics in the crowd nod in approval. This is the question they've been waiting for. Karoline still poised counters with precision. Asterisk. Faith and logic are not adversaries. Leadership requires both. Facts guide policy, but conviction shapes character. Without belief in something greater than ourselves, leadership becomes hollow. It loses its sense of purpose. Risk. A shift ripples through the room. Even those who doubted her moments ago begin to reconsider. She isn't arguing that faith overrides reason. She's arguing that leadership isn't just about cold, calculated decisions. It requires conviction, resilience, and principles. And just like that, the debate is only beginning. The stakes are rising, the tension thickening. The conversation is far from over. The room waits, every eye locked on Karoline Leavitt, knowing that the real test has yet to come. The tension in the studio continues to mount. Daniel Pierce senses the shift. The growing divide in the room between skeptics and believers. The conversation is no longer just a debate. It has evolved into a battle of ideologies. Each side unwilling to concede easily. Karoline remains composed, her posture unwavering despite the pressing questions. The opposition, made up of analysts and commentators, push harder, intent on proving that faith is nothing more than a personal belief with no place in leadership. Leadership should be based on facts, not faith. One critic argues, his voice sharp, confident. The statement sends ripples through the audience. Some nod in agreement, murmuring approval. Others exchange glances, unsure. The weight of this claim looms large. Should reason alone dictate the actions of leaders? Karoline listens without reacting immediately. She is deliberate with her words, letting the challenge settle before she speaks. And faith has guided leaders through history. It is not an obstacle. It is a foundation, and she counters. Her response isn't hurried. It isn't defensive. It's delivered with the certainty of someone who understands the depth of what she's saying. Pierce leans forward, sensing the heat rising in the discussion. He knows that this is the moment that will define the debate, the escalation that will determine whose argument holds the most weight. Under Karoline, your argument suggests that faith strengthens leadership. But what about cases where faith conflicts with logic, where leaders are faced with decisions requiring pure reason, and it is the ultimate test, one designed to push her into a corner? The skeptics in the audience listen eagerly, waiting to see if her conviction holds against the demand for tangible facts. She doesn't waver. Instead, she turns to the audience, addressing them directly. And imagine if you had to make the toughest decision of your life. Do you trust only logic, or does something greater guide you? And her words hang in the air, lingering as the crowd processes them. It's no longer just a debate about leadership. It's a personal question, forcing everyone watching to evaluate their own perspective. Some shift in their seats, confronted by the complexity of the thought. Others remain unconvinced. The opposition presses further. Under Karoline, history has evolved beyond faith-driven decisions. In today's world, data, logic, and strategy rule leadership, and a murmur spreads through the studio, an idea many resonate with. But Karoline is prepared for this. She leans forward slightly, her expression unreadable before she drops an unexpected fact. Under Abraham Lincoln, during one of the most trying times in American history, turned to faith for guidance. Winston Churchill, in the darkest hours of war, relied on prayer to push forward. Leaders don't abandon reason for faith. They rely on faith when reason alone isn't enough. And the studio falls silent for a moment. It's an argument critics didn't expect. The conversation is no longer about dismissing faith. It's about acknowledging its presence in history, even among the most celebrated leaders. The skeptics hesitate. Some try to find a counterpoint. Others seem unsure. Pierce senses the shift in momentum. Karoline's statement has changed the dynamic of the conversation. The stakes have risen. The debate is no longer black and white. And in the midst of this unfolding tension, the discussion is about to reach its most defining moment yet. The battle isn't over. But something has changed. A realization has settled into the room. Faith is not the absence of reason. It has coexisted with it all along. And now the opposition must reconsider everything they thought was certain. The air thickens in the studio as the debate reaches its boiling point. Daniel Pierce, ever the relentless host, senses the intensity growing. The opposition panel, emboldened by skepticism, leans in. They push harder, their voices firm and calculated. Faith is nothing more than emotional comfort, one critic asserts, his tone unwavering asterisk. It might help individuals cope, but leadership demands strategy, facts, and reason. Faith has no place in decisions that affect millions. Asterisk. The audience reacts with murmurs, some nodding, others folding their arms, waiting for Karoline's response. It's a direct challenge, a statement designed to strip faith down to nothing more than sentiment. Something fragile, easily dismissed. Karoline doesn't blink. She doesn't shift uncomfortably. She lets the moment stretch, allowing the weight of their argument to settle into the air. Then she leans forward slightly, her voice steady, her presence unshaken. You call faith emotional comfort. But what you fail to recognize is that conviction, true unwavering belief, is what has sustained leaders in the most impossible moments of history. Asterisk. The crowd is listening now. Even the skeptics pause, sensing something deeper in her words. Pierce watches her carefully, knowing she's about to shift the direction of the debate. You want reason. Karoline continues. You want logic. Then let's talk about leadership in crisis. When no amount of statistics, no calculation, no purely rational approach can prepare someone for the weight of responsibility resting on their shoulders. Asterisk. Her voice doesn't waver. The atmosphere changes. I remember a moment that tested me beyond what I thought I could endure, she says, her tone softer yet filled with gravity. Risk. A moment when every logical path seemed to fail, when every strategy fell short. And in that moment, reason wasn't enough. Conviction, the unshakable foundation of faith, is what kept me standing. The studio is silent now. No mockery, no interruptions. Even the skeptics, those who had been the most dismissive, hesitate because this isn't abstract philosophy. This is lived experience. Karoline lets the moment breathe. She knows the power of vulnerability, not as weakness, but as undeniable truth. Faith is not blind belief. She states firmly asterisk. It is resilience. It is knowing deep within that despite uncertainty, despite chaos, there is something greater driving you forward. Asterisk. Pierce shifts in his seat. Even he sees it. This is no longer just a debate. Some skeptics still resist, unwilling to concede entirely, but they cannot dismiss the raw honesty of her story. Because whether or not they believe in faith, they can recognize conviction. And conviction, true tested belief, is something no leader can afford to dismiss. The shift in the room is unmistakable. The battle isn't over, but something has changed. Karoline Leavitt hasn't simply defended faith. She's redefined it. And now the conversation is no longer about whether faith belongs in leadership. It's about whether leadership can truly exist without it. The studio holds its breath. The tension that once electrified the air has softened into contemplation. A moment suspended between reflection and resolution. Karoline Leavitt has done more than defend faith. She has reframed the conversation entirely. No longer is the debate about faith versus reason. Instead, it has become a discussion about conviction, resilience, and the essence of leadership itself. She takes a measured breath, scanning the audience before her. Some still hold skepticism in their expressions, but others seem changed, if not fully convinced, then at least reconsidering long-held assumptions. That is the mark of a discussion that truly matters, one that doesn't just divide, but challenges people to think beyond their comfort zones. Under faith is not just religion. Under Karoline finally states her voice carrying the weight of the entire conversation. Under it is the foundation of courage. It is what allows leaders to stand firm in uncertainty. What gives them the strength to make impossible decisions when logic alone falls short. And Daniel Pierce leans back, arms folded, studying her closely. He is not known for conceding easily, but even he cannot deny the depth of her argument. After a long pause, he acknowledges what is clear to everyone watching. Under whether one agrees with Karoline Leavitt or not, tonight has made one thing certain. Faith in some form plays an undeniable role in shaping leaders. Conviction, purpose, and belief are not separate from leadership. They are at its core, and the studio remains still absorbing the final words exchanged between host and guest. The debate, though intense, has led to an inevitable truth. Great leadership is built on more than numbers and policies. It requires strength, purpose, and the ability to stand unwavering in the face of adversity. The silence is broken by the sound of applause. It begins hesitantly, then builds, filling the room with a sense of finality. Regardless of which side people stand on, no one can deny the impact of what has just unfolded. As the cameras prepare to fade to black, Daniel Pierce turns to the audience with one last thought. A question that will continue to fuel discussions long after this episode ends. What do you think? Should faith influence leadership or should facts alone guide decisions? Comment your thoughts and let the world hear your voice. And with that, the broadcast ends, but the conversation is far from over. The debate continues in homes, online, and in the minds of those who sat through one of the most defining moments of Karoline Leavitt's career. Because conviction when truly tested leaves an imprint that cannot be ignored.